Today's video is sponsored by Dashlane. Before today's deep dive into the dark web, let's talk about how Dashlane can make your digital life safer and a little less irritating on the surface web. If you're like me, you've used the forgot password function more times than you can remember. And when you need to get things done, nothing is more frustrating than having to reset your password, log back into your email, enter two-factor authentication, refresh your inbox, click the reset link, and then have to think of a brand new, unique password. This wastes precious minutes of productivity, and that adds up fast over time. With Dashlane, all you need is one master password and you're set across all your devices. This password manager helps you create secure passwords for all your favorite sites in seconds and autofills login credentials or payment info, all with a click of a button. Plus, if at any moment an account of yours is compromised, Dashlane will send you a breach alert so you can protect your account immediately. Not to mention, with Dashlane's dark web monitoring, you receive alerts if any of your personal info is found leaked on the dark web. This is a no-brainer for any web sleuths thinking about investigating things on the internet, because to top off all the features I mentioned before, you'll get access to a VPN in this same package. So instead of using multiple solutions, join the 11 million users and get the most value out of Dashlane absolutely free on your first device at dashlane.com/social. And for the first 500 people to upgrade to premium, be sure to snag the promo code SOCIAL to save 25%. Thanks again to Dashlane for sponsoring this video. When it comes to peering into the dark web, there's a fascinating and disturbing saga at almost every single turn. If you browse darknet news, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There is always someone getting busted, some site getting hacked, or some elaborate scam that just took place. While some of you might be somewhat familiar with darknet marketplaces such as the Silk Road and their typical drama, today I'd like to focus on a lesser known, yet equally interesting type of darknet site. You may have heard the rumor that you can actually order a hitman off of the dark web, but this is actually an urban legend. That's not to say these hitman sites don't exist, as there are plenty of them that claim to offer these services, but these are nothing but scams. If you research into this subject, you'll learn that to this day, not a single real hitman site has actually ever existed. But don't be discouraged, as this individual darknet hitman site has one hell of a story to tell. Today, we're going to be looking into how one onion site by the name of Besa Mafia started from scratch, saw success, and its inevitable fallout that disturbingly bled into the real world. This is the true dark web saga of Besa Mafia. If you're going to build a darknet hitman website, you need to start somewhere. So let's go back to February of 2016. At this time, an onslaught of blog posts showed up on the surface web, referencing Besa Mafia and providing the onion link. Unlike with the Silk Road, where the original poster acted as though they just stumbled upon an interesting website they wanted to share, these blog posts acted in protest to Besa Mafia, calling for the entire website to be shut down. At first, these blog posts went largely unnoticed, but they would later play a pivotal role in building the reputation of Besa Mafia. Social proof is one of the biggest ways to convince someone into buying a product, and hits are no different. The site needed to build an aura of legitimacy even though no one had heard about them. Many of these early spam blog posts scattered across the internet would link to another blog by the name of fightingbesamafia.blogspot.com and would lay out a backstory for what was supposedly going on the dark web. Each blog post would read something along the lines of, "The purpose of our article is to expose their illegal activities on our website, with the hope that we will get media pressure on the police and FBI to close down their site," and below they would provide the onion link. Going over to this initial Trailhead blog, we would see an initial post. They start off the post claiming that they don't intend on linking to the website as to not promote them, but if you looked at any of the other blogs that sprung up at this time, it was incredibly easy to find the onion link. Nonetheless, this is a marketing tactic for a darknet website, so they're not entirely honest. If someone were looking into Besa Mafia at this time, they would see a cleverly made up backstory about how the Albanian mafia is running this site and how supposedly countless individuals have fallen prey to this new methodology of paying for hits on the dark web. Almost all of these articles are trying to play it up as if they are condemning Besa Mafia while simultaneously advertising for them and vouching for their legitimacy. I must say, this is an incredibly unique form of content marketing to sell a scam, and this entire search engine campaign is very clever as it distances the author from the scam, but still educates people on how to pay for hits on Besa Mafia. Now I digress. If you know anything about the darknet, scams are just about everywhere. Just about every onion link wants to steal Bitcoin from you in some way, and hitman scams are no different. But unlike the vast majority of these hitman scam sites, some real effort went into getting customers onto the Besa Mafia website. One thing that Besa Mafia was incredibly good at was marketing. And in early 2016, all of the reviews for this site were overwhelmingly positive. Now, you might be wondering how a scam hitman website could have such spotless reviews, and the answer once again lies in search engine manipulation. The owner of the website, who went by the moniker Yura, frequently used freelance writers to actually dominate Google searches and bring customers there. If you're unfamiliar with this type of freelance work, essentially think of places like Fiverr or similar places where you can hire someone to do just about anything at a low cost. Fiverr is just one of the most popular ones, but there are a ton of SEO services online, and this army of freelance writers was basically the main weapon for building the reputation of Besa Mafia. Yura would hire a large number of freelancers from countries where labor was cheap and have them write blog posts to the point that they would own the Google search, Reddit threads, and even Quora questions. This manipulation of public perception, in turn, spread the rumor that Besa Mafia was in fact a real hitman website. Just one Google search at this time would lead to countless great reviews, and occasionally people in these testimonials would go as far as to openly admit to paying for someone's car to be set on fire, and so on. In all honesty, I'm surprised this worked at all, but if you take time to read through these testimonials, they are blatantly fake. Logically, it's absurd that people would openly admit to paying for hits on the surface web and then have the balls to link to a news article claiming responsibility for harming someone. This isn't the type of service that you would leave a review for, but the sad matter of fact with human behavior is that with enough social proof that is given, this can lead to some degree of perceived credibility. With the overwhelming amount of "yes, Besa Mafia is real" posts dominating the Google search pages and other platforms, people began gossiping, thus spreading this rumor further. The fact that this ultimately led people to pay for hits later on truly shows how common sense can go out the door if enough social proof is present. But this is really only where the saga begins, as soon after this website would gain attention, it would lead to some people to look into the inner workings of what was actually going on this onion site. Enter Chris Montero. Chris is a systems administrator by day and a cybercrime researcher by night. Chris's research generally seeks to outline the reality of what goes on certain parts of the dark web, and part of outlining what is real is debunking what isn't. And as a result of his own research, it has led him to contribute his findings on his own blog, pirate.london, and various online encyclopedias. On February 20th, 2016, an anonymous contribution was added to the Rational Wiki Internet Assassination page that stated something along the lines of, "All hitman websites are fake, except Besa Mafia." This was quickly reverted by admins, but then shortly after, another edit was made by the same anonymous user. This was blatant wiki vandalism and obvious self-promotion for Besa Mafia. As such, this encouraged Chris to look into what was going on with this particular site. After further exploration, this led Chris to write a blog post about what he had found. Chris essentially reviewed the Onion site and outed it as being a fake for a number of reasons. In his conclusion to the article, he writes, "I'll admit, if it wasn't for this terrible advice, I would have praised the site at being an effective fake. But come on, no tumbling?" If you don't know what tumbling is, then let me explain. Essentially, Bitcoin tumblers are a way of sending Bitcoin from point A to point B while making it incredibly hard to track. Bitcoin tumblers send money to a wide variety of Bitcoin addresses in a varied amount and at different times. Essentially, Chris is suggesting here that if the website wasn't promoting the use of Bitcoin tumbling, it would make it very easy to track, thus making it a fake for this and a number of other things. In the final part of the article, Chris pointed out the obvious shilling that was going on for the site on Reddit. These were very fresh Reddit accounts, all endorsing Besa Mafia. We know that Besa Mafia carefully monitored their Google search reputation as they went out of their way to create countless reviews. Chris soon after received the following email. "Hello, I'm one of the admins of Besa Mafia, the website on the deep web. I saw your blog at pirate.london. Would it be possible for us to pay for a true and honest, positive review? Our site is a marketplace and we have many registered gang members. We are not like other Hitman sites, where they only have one team. Let me know if we can prove to you that we are legit. P.S. No PGP key unless you ask for it." Chris ended up posting their entire conversation and interview on his blog later, which I will link to because there's far too much to go through in this video. Much of this interview is Yura deflecting, but of notable things to mention from this interview are the following. At one point, Yura offers to pay for an advertisement on Chris's blog. He offers to pay monthly for this to remain neutral towards their site, to which Chris denies. In the same interview, Yura offers to have someone beaten up, to which Chris obviously doesn't have any interest in. Finally, at the end of this email correspondence, Yura threatens Chris, stating the following. "Do whatever you need to do, but if you say our service is fake, we will say that you are an undercover cop, with the purpose to disinform people on the deep web. I would suggest you to remain disguised as a deep web lover and be neutral to our website until satisfied or dissatisfied customers start bragging on, complaining about us." To summarize this long exchange, it appeared that Yura wanted to manipulate Chris, and when he wouldn't concede any points and stuck to the notion that Besa Mafia was a scam, Yura then threatened him, to which not much would come of this. Until April 10th, 2016, where a link to this video was posted in the comments section of that blog post. Here we see Besa Mafia dedicated a car burning to Chris, and this was a real crime that took place around Woodland Hills, California. And this wasn't a one-time thing either. Besa Mafia had multiple videos on the internet of cars being set ablaze, one in dedication to Chris and the other two videos in dedication to Pinochet and Fox. who were both admins on Hidden Answers. Both Fox and Pinochet had said that Besa Mafia was fake as well, and your typical scammer usually just ignores criticism and moves on. So if Besa Mafia was a scam, why were they just casually stealing and burning vehicles just for random critics on the internet? As it would turn out, we wouldn't have to wait too long to figure out what was going on inside of Besa Mafia. Something I should mention about many of the sites on the dark web is the fact that they are widely susceptible to vulnerabilities from would-be hackers. Many site admins overlook or simply don't have the skill set to improve server security, and as a result, you can get a situation like one we're about to see. Since Chris was individually threatened by Besa Mafia, he first went to the authorities. But the police couldn't do anything, as this car was outside of the UK's jurisdiction. As a result, he decided to take matters into his own hands, which resulted in multiple silent hackings of the website. Chris ended up seeking help from a colleague who had the moniker of Judge Judy, and together they used a vulnerability to scrape and collect all messages that were sent and received on Besa Mafia. And what they found was incredibly disturbing. As suspected, the entire site was a scam, but as a byproduct of learning that the site was fake, he had stumbled upon a very real hit list. With something like a tech support scam, the blame is to 100% be placed on the person trying to rip off your grandmother. But in this instance, the person who is getting ripped off is the evil one. If you think about it, Yura is scamming would-be murderers. Since customers believed that Besa Mafia was real, they were willing to pay real money to have real people taken out. If someone is willing to pay thousands of dollars to have a hit done, you might also want to consider if that person would take things into their own hands, if the scam website couldn't get the job done. But more on that in a bit. Chris stumbled upon all of the sick requests that individuals were willing to pay money for. As far as the car burnings go, he learned that these were used to maintain the reputation of Besa Mafia. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that Besa Mafia offered the opportunity for you to sign up as a hitman as well. Yura manipulated a user by the name of THC John 2. Yura decided to have John perform an audition tape in which he would torch a car. As a result, John participated in all of the subsequent videos we found online, to which he got a total of $300 when Yura scammed him too. Now, when this site was hacked quietly, naturally you'd imagine that Chris would take this to the authorities, and he did. According to wire.co.uk, it states he tried getting the police involved, again with little success. He claims the Met referred him to the NCA, which didn't answer his calls or messages. The NCTSO said the matter was out of its jurisdiction, and the FBI suggested that he talk with the NCA. While Chris was trying to figure out what to do with all of this info, something else unexpected would occur. While the authorities dragged their feet, something abrupt would occur that would tarnish the reputation of Besa Mafia entirely. Keep in mind, when Chris was hacking the site, it was done privately. This is intentional as to keep any dangerous people who paid for hits from going into hiding. Another hacker by the name of BRPSD collectively used a similar vulnerability and scraped all message and server files and posted them publicly. Logistically, this file dump was split into two parts. One we still have full access to this day, while the other part is fragmented across the internet. The first part of the file dump that was submitted had all of the user account info in plain text, along with the time the site was hacked and so on. I must say, one of the most poetic details from this entire hack was the fact that Yura's password was f***, and this perfectly sums up the next part of this file dump. Included was a link to a Files FM download that had 2 CSV files with 38 hit orders 2,682 messages paired with target photos, phone numbers, and more. On a side note, Besa Mafia had made about $65,000 in Bitcoin in 2 months. Before we dive into these messages, I want to highlight one name from this file dump that was an account by the name of Dog Day God, as we are going to read through some of this sick bastard's messages here in a bit. As more articles started to pop up regarding this file dump, this launched Yura into full damage control. And you can still find various spam posts from Yura that was calling the file dump fake. But truth be told, the file dump was very real. As mentioned previously, the 2 CSV files have been removed from the internet, so I'm going to do my best to read through all the bits I could find that are still laying around. According to the Daily Star, one Turkish man wrote, "I was in business out of Turkey, and when I returned back, I discovered she betrayed me with this motherfucker. The big thing that's fucking me off is that she acted that I'm in the wrong and she asked for a divorce now she's run away from home to hide with Moose. I have an idea that I would also like to catch her and then just spend my days torturing her. So can you catch her and deliver her to me?" According to that same Wired article from earlier, someone wanted his wife's lover killed, his organs sold to get a discount on the hit, and the woman herself smuggled into Saudi Arabia. Another Dutch user paid 20 Bitcoin to have someone flattened in a fake cycling accident. A person in Minnesota had spent 4 months chatting with Yura about how to get a mother of 1 murdered. From the Daily Star once again, another man put an order in after announcing his marriage was over. He told Besa Mafia she could be found alone in her car in a small town consistently on Friday nights. Another client asked that a woman driving a 2010 white Nissan be picked off as she left a supermarket or Target at 9 p.m. on Friday, and he had it worked out to every single detail. He said, if she's in the car, the easiest would be if the hitman is driving in another car and hits her car violently to kill her. This could be done with a stolen truck that can be abandoned after the job. Could appear as the thief got drunk and involved in an accident. These requests submitted on the site were truly disturbing, except for the one dude who wanted to know the price for changing his grades. In all honesty, we've just scratched the surface with these messages, and when this file dump was put onto the internet, it was truly a PR nightmare for a site that had put so much into faking its reputation. Weeks after this file dump was posted, another article on this scenario came up from a website by the name of allthingsvice.com. While this article talks about many of the things that we have covered thus far, I should mention that what's notable is that the author is Eileen Ormbsy, who is an Australian journalist to which she would have an extensive run-in with Yura that would drag her right into this saga for years to come. In Eileen's book called The Darkest Web, which I highly recommend you go read, as there's tons of details we simply won't get to, she basically details her extensive correspondence with Yura, to which at this point in time, she was threatened in just about every way possible. Eileen stood her ground, which probably annoyed Yura, as a month later, Yura would go on another search engine spree where he would fill the internet with posts that would claim that Eileen Ormbsy and Chris Montero were the true owners of Besa Mafia. While Yura was getting frustrated, something to note is that he would continue his correspondence with Eileen in a constant back and forth, and they would actually remain in contact for years to come, but more on that later. While Besa Mafia had taken a hit from the file dump and this new media out on them, Chris was still working on something else. In July of 2016, Chris and Judge Judy would perform a final hack that would cut Besa Mafia entirely. As a result, Chris got access to Yura's Gmail from the file dump from BRPSD, and this eventually led them to gain access to the cryptographic keys controlling the domain, and as such, the homepage changed to the following. While this would delay Yura for a bit, something far more sinister had flown under the radar. Now, earlier I highlighted one user on the file dump that went by the name of Dog Day God. So let's retrace his digital footsteps that begin with a Reddit account to which to this day has been scrubbed from the internet. On Valentine's Day of 2016, Dog Day God would make a post on Darknet Markets Noobs, which is a subreddit that has been banned. But he said, "I'm new to the markets, but I assume there are some law enforcement officers posing as sellers in the markets. How do I identify a law enforcement officer versus a real seller? Any tips would be helpful." While it's impossible to see the original post or even the exact replies, what we can assume is that Dog Day God felt confident enough to move forward, as on the file dump from Besa Mafia, his account was created the day after, which is when he wrote his first message. For reference, the document containing all the messages sent by Dog Day God is an 80-page PDF. Much of it is tedium, but I am going to go through the key ones so you can understand his dark demeanor. In this first message, he writes, "I'm looking to hire you for a hit, but what is the recommended way to convert cash into Bitcoin anonymously? If I pull 5K out for a hit, after the hit I would assume that the police would see that draw and where it went. So even if the Bitcoins are not traceable, that missing money would raise suspicion. Is there a way to make it look like I'm buying something and end up with Bitcoins, so that way the money looks like it's going to something tangible and not cash to pay for a hit?" Yura would then write back the same day and say, "Hello, you can exchange money on Coinbase and local Bitcoins. We'll plan a date together for the hit when you can travel outside of the city for a day or two. This makes everyone know that you could not be the murderer. Regarding Bitcoin, yes, you can say you've purchased a gaming server that costs 5K online, with games such as Metin or a similar game, and we can provide you with access to one of our money laundering gaming servers for a limited period. You can tell everyone that you just invested in online games for children, and they couldn't prove that you didn't, and you're safe. Let me know." That same day, on February 16th, Dog Day God would write back and state the following: "The target will be traveling out of Moline, Illinois in March, but that's a 3-hour drive from Chicago. I'm assuming that this would not work for the hit. If it would, then it would be the perfect time. Also, you give the price in USD, but then you say you pay in Bitcoin. What's the price in Bitcoin for a hit, and ideally making it look like an accident?" In the next message, Yura gives him an option on how he would like the target taken out. He quotes separate prices and scenarios, to which Dog Day God would then reply to him. "Hit and run is what I was thinking, as it would be the easiest accident, and that would work fine. So can we say 15 Bitcoin for a hit with a car and ensure fatality? I'm in the process of exchanging and tumbling coins. Thanks." In the next few messages, DDG asks for a third-party escrow service outside of Besa Mafia. And this is interesting as it shows his apprehension towards getting scammed. Yura explains how Besa Mafia would supposedly act as a middleman, and after a lengthy back and forth, on March 6, 2016, Dog Day God would write the following. This message has the subject line "Trust," and he writes, "Okay, I did some research, and everything that I read says that you guys are real and can carry out what you say you can do. They say Besa means trust, so please do not break that. For reasons that are too personal and would give away my identity, I need this bitch dead, so please help me. Thanks." Yura would then write back, "Hi, yes, Besa means trust, and we don't disappoint our customers. I see you've added 15.5 Bitcoin to your account. Please place your order by clicking on the order button and give us the specifications. I will see to it that a good available hitman in the state of your target can do the job with no problems. Please also tell us a date when you want the hit to be done. It is best for you to travel away from the city if you live in the same city with the target. Our hitman won't leave any evidence at the scene of the crime, and it is better for you to be out of town that day, preferably in a different city where you can be video recorded by some public cameras in a library or some mall or shopping center. This is to avoid any possible suspicions that you were there and had anything to do with the crime yourself. It's good to be able to say that you were traveling to a different city to buy some clothes and relax on that date. And the distance should be far enough that they know you cannot be able to drive back into your city to do the crime. You need to clean your computer with some privacy software, and with this, you're 100% protected. No one can suspect you're involved, let alone prove anything. Let me know. At this point, Dog Day God would place an order on the target through the website's online form. Besa Mafia, order 30312. Order by Dog Day God. Target, Amy Alwine. Location, La Quinta Inn, Molina Airport, 5450 27th Street, Moline, Illinois, 61265. Picture. Description: she's about 5'6". She looks about 200 pounds, should be driving a dark green Toyota Sienna minivan. This bitch has torn my family apart by sleeping with my husband, who then left me, and is stealing clients from my business. I want her dead. That's 13 bitcoins, and if it can look like an accident, then you can have the rest. Yura would confirm the order with the following message. Okay, we got the order details. The assigned hitman will schedule to do this job in the night between the 19th to the 20th of March. He will wait for her at the airport, tail her with a stolen car, and when he has the chance, he will cause the car accident to kill her. He will have his gun with him. If by any chance the car accident goes wrong and she doesn't die, he will shoot her. He will try his best to make the car accident and make sure she dies in the impact. Do you know, is there anyone else scheduled to come with her at the airport, like a companion or anyone? The hitman wants to know if she's scheduled to be alone, or if he should be careful about the companion. It's not a problem if she has a companion, but it's good to know to be prepared. If she has a companion, they might both die in a car accident. You need to be sure it's not someone with her that you might feel sorry for, like an offspring or some relative you care about. Let us know. Dog Day God would respond on the same day and write, she will actually be driving down from Minneapolis through Cedar Rapids to Moline. She will have a companion with her, but no one that I care about. Yura and Dog Day God would go back and forth throughout the month of March, to which Yura continually provides excuses at every given opportunity and tries to get more money out of Dog Day God with promises of a better way of getting the job done. I will skip over the tedium, but on March 31st, Dog Day God would write, hello, I was very disappointed the hit did not happen on Thursday and Monday as it was expected to. I realize that things happen, but this bitch has torn my family apart by sleeping with my husband, who then left me, and is stealing clients from my business. I've had to continue to act like her friend to get information, and I cannot do it anymore. I've gone out of my way to try and get you good information. I feel that I am at risk of being suspected if I ask too many more questions. You've had 3 good attempts at her, and none of them have worked. I like the idea of shooting and fire because I think it would look like a robbery and a cover-up. But I'm at the point that I don't even care how it's done. I believe that if I go about my regular routine, that I will not be a suspect if I stop asking questions and just act normal. So I'd like you to suggest that you have until May 1st to do whatever works best for you and your people. Based on our previous conversations, if this is a straight shoot and kill, then it's 13. If it looks like an accident, then it's 15 Bitcoin. And if it's a robbery and fire, then it's 25 Bitcoin. If it is not done in some way by May 1st, then I would like my money back. Does that sound like enough time for you? I cannot get my hopes built up again like this weekend by having a date in mind, and then these hopes torn down when it does not happen. So I do not care about the date or method. You have her picture and address, so you can tail her or do whatever you need to do to get the job done. I ask that you only get her and not the dad or kid, as the kid is a friend of our child's, and I do not want to leave him orphaned. I do know that she's going to take a trip to Atlanta the weekend of April 7th to the 10th, but I do not know the details. I was also passing by recently when they had a garage door open, and I was able to see that they had 3 what looked like 5-gallon gas cans just outside the door of the house to the garage, and what looks like a propane tank as well. I'm not sure if any of them are full, but they are there. Thanks for your help with this. I need her out of my life so I can move on. Dog Day God would continue to provide personal information on the target until May 18th of 2016, to which he would write the following message. Just requested a refund. You guys have not been able to get this done, which is sad. I expected more from you and the people that you contract with. I am not impressed with your organization's ability to hire quality individuals to do an easy task. I may reach out to you again if I have the additional funds for your high-quality people, but until then, I need my money back to keep what is left of my business running. I hope that you guys have not screwed my business by letting this bitch live." There's still a bit of back and forth, but the final message from Yura ends their correspondence, to which he threatens to report the messages to law enforcement unless Dog Day God sends more Bitcoin. Over the course of 3 months, Dog Day God had paid about $13,000 to get this hit done. Suffice it to say, he didn't get his refund. Keep in mind that Besa Mafia was hacked in late April, yet Dog Day God would continue his correspondence through May. And after the site shut down in July, we wouldn't hear much about these messages until November 13th of 2016. When the following 911 call would be made, viewer discretion is advised.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
I think my wife shot herself. There's blood all over.
Shot herself with a gun?
It looks like it.
Does she still have the weapon?
I don't know. We just got
Where did
home
she shoot
today.
herself?
I don't know. I just saw her in blood.
Okay. Do you see her right now?
No, I'm with my son.
Sir, do you know if she was breathing at all?
I don't. I
Okay,
just got back from dinner.
Okay, would you like to check on her and see if she is, or do you believe that
No.
she's beyond help?
Stay there for just a second. They want me to go check on her. Hang on.
Okay.
She is not breathing. I can't tell where she's shot. I don't know.
Why did she?
I don't know. I don't know.
Are we gonna remarry?
I don't know, bud.
Are there any other weapons in the residence, sir?
Yes, there's a shotgun in the room and 2 rifles downstairs.
Okay, is the shotgun the one she has?
No, she had a handgun.
Is it just you and your son home right now?
Yes.
Okay. Steven, are you able to just step out of the home with your son so my officers can see you when they pull up?
Yeah.
If you recall, the woman that Dog Day God placed a hit on was Amy Alwine. And the 911 call we just listened to is where she had supposedly taken her own life. Amy Alwine had a dog training business, and she was married to a man by the name of Stephen Alwine with their adopted son. Amy and her husband were both leaders in a very strict denomination of Christianity called the United Church of God. Now, the name Dog Day God might make some sense here. The authorities had reached out to Amy Alwine by the end of May of 2016, alerting her that a hit had been placed on her due to the public file dump. And while the authorities advised the increased home security, you could make a very strong argument that these messages weren't properly investigated whatsoever. Despite what Dog Day God had stated, Amy never had an affair, and none of her close friends would have any of the specifics on her location to give Yura on such frequency. As the investigation would unravel, the use of luminol would show that blood was found all over the house, suggesting that Amy hadn't simply taken her own life, but was taken out by the same person who placed a hit on her. Stephen, her husband, was an IT specialist and was the true identity of Dog Day God. Stephen had framed his own wife's suicide by using an anesthetic he bought off the dark web. The real person having an affair was Stephen, and he went to Ashley Madison and was seeing a woman ever since. Since they were leaders in the church, getting a divorce would ruin his reputation in his small town of Cottage Grove. You might be wondering why Stephen was willing to continually pay so much for a hit to be done, and that was the fact that he was getting ready to collect a $700,000 life insurance policy. In his twisted mind, he wanted to trade out his old wife of 20 years for a new one and a large paycheck. In January of 2017, Chris had finally managed to make a connection with an operative from the NCA from a mutual acquaintance and had been scheduled to give a confidential presentation with what he had been discovering through Besa Mafia. By this time, Yura had been operating under a new site by the name of Crime Bay, to which the same exploit allowed Chris to scrape messages, and as such, the saga would continue. When Chris finally made it to the meeting with the NCA, he explained the inner workings of Besa Mafia. At this point, he had even ranked some of its most dangerous users based on intent, to which Dog Day God was in the top 10. While the NCA had some time constraints, they agreed to collect the user data later and ended the meeting saying that they would be in touch. Less than 48 hours after this meeting, on January 20th, Chris would write an email to Eileen Ormbsy with the first words of it being, and attached was a link to an article regarding Stephen Alwine. News would break regarding Stephen, to which Chris and Eileen would immediately recognize the name Dog Day God. As to be expected, this was quite a revelation, seeing as Chris had tried to warn authorities beforehand, and the fact that this was even posted online publicly showed how much the authorities had dragged their feet. Something to consider is that before Amy Alwine, this concept of someone taking matters into their own hands was proven for the first time. Chris had messaged his NCA contact about Amy Alwine, and once again, they had stated that things were being looked into, in which he would wait. On one quiet Friday night in early February, Chris sat at home in his London flat. His front door was bust down, and Chris Montero was arrested. His devices were later confiscated, and he was later notified that he had been taken into custody for incitement to murder in connection to Besa Mafia. If you recall from earlier, I mentioned that Yura had filled the internet with posts claiming that Eileen and Chris were partial owners of Besa Mafia, and this came back to bite him almost a year later. Since there was refreshed interest in this topic from Stephen Alwine's conviction, authorities' eyes were on Besa Mafia in the UK, and thus this mix-up occurred. For 2 days in jail, Chris had to explain how Yura was not his partner in crime, but rather his direct enemy, and ultimately he had managed to clear the air once the interrogation managed to catch up on the story. In May of 2017, a seizure notice appeared on the Crime Bay website, and news would start to pop up of their users getting arrested. One person was arrested who had ordered a hit on his financial advisor but never paid. He was later acquitted. Another Italian woman received 6 years for paying for a hit on her ex-boyfriend. Chris had assumed that Yura was arrested until he contacted both Eileen and him via email later that year. Soon after, CBS would approach Chris and Eileen for a news segment regarding Amy Alwine, and in this 48-hour segment, they would actually go on to notify local authorities of active murder-for-hire plots, to which they would directly contact local authorities, which would actually lead to arrests. During this time, Yura had another site by the name of Cosa Nostra, and once again, the same vulnerability could be found on the website. Notably, even Yura makes an appearance under the pretenses that this Saga would promote his site as real, and through the series, he even went as far as to provide some targets for CBS to investigate that would lead to arrests. While this situation with CBS was great for making things happen, in the present day, the NCA has continued to treat these cases with low priority. While Chris still reports these plots that continuously pop up, I should mention that due to the Computer Misuse Act of 1990 in the United Kingdom, the use of white hat hacking to gain unauthorized access to this info on Yura's sites forces him to tread very carefully in a legal gray area. As such, Chris is essentially left with a very real kill list spanning the globe that he forwards to local authorities and journalists. I should mention that since this Besa Mafia saga, Chris has repeatedly done the same server scraping to other Hitman sites. To this day, Chris has made 283 individual plot submissions, and only 9 arrests have yet to be made. In many countries, authorities haven't even opened up an investigation. That being said, if you have contacts with local law enforcement or you're a journalist looking to investigate some of these plots, you should get in contact with Chris. You can find his contact info on his blog, pirate.london. Moving forward, I should state that we're left with more of the same. Despite any video on this topic, people will still continue to order hits on the dark web. God knows how many videos have been done on tech support scammers, and people still fall for that every single day. But to be clear, my goal here isn't to spread scam awareness, as I sort of believe that these types of people deserve to be scammed. It's just that these plots need to be investigated by law enforcement. My goal, more or less, is to bridge the gap and help Chris make those connections that will get these cases in the right desk. Right now, we're stuck in an endless saga. Chris is continuing to make these plot submissions, while Yura continues to make new sites. To be fair to Yura, he has started to forward some info over to Eileen, and has gone from threatening her in the very beginning to present day being more open to talking. The way I see it is that there's always going to be someone willing to make a hitman site, so Yura, if you are still sending those targets over to Eileen, please continue to do so. With all of that being said, this is Barely Sociable. Have a good night.